Andrea lives, well, she's got, Frank as well, so Andrea lives across the street from us.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and bring the meeting to order. It is, just to reflect the time, it's 10:01. I'm going to go ahead and open this meeting of the Environmental Advisory Committee. Marco, could you please do roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Byrne?
Here.
Ms. Peck?
Here.
Ms. Good?
Here.
Ms. Niles?
Nillis.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Here.
Ms. Metz?
Here.
Ms. Kelleher?
Here.
Ms. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Hoffman?
Here.
Commissioner Thier?
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, so what I'd like to do is to start this meeting is give everyone a minute to just introduce yourself. Feel free to give us any information that you may want to, whether that's personal or professional or background. Some of us know each other, some of us don't, so we'll just start with Francis, if you could, please.
Hi, everyone. Frances Kelleher, a resident of Rehoboth. I live over on Stokely Street, and I built my house there back in 1992 on the last empty lot on the street. I'm a biochemist by training, and I also have, as a biology undergrad major, I studied environmental biology courses. And I have a really keen interest in protection of the environment in general, but I do have a very keen interest in the light issue, so I'm very happy to be here today.
Hi, I'm Mary Peck, and I'm a retired environmental lawyer, and I live on Oak Avenue, and I'm also a board member at the Save Our Lakes 3.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dick Byrne. I've lived here full-time for over 15 years now. I was a city commissioner, and the most relevant part of that experience to us today is that I started the first Environment Committee. There had not been a new committee in our city for many years, and after jumping through all of the hoops and the bureaucratic kinds of things that we had to do, we did kick off an Environment Committee in 2019, and very pertinent to today's discussion, one of the areas that we discussed in collaboration with the Beach and Boardwalk Committee, and we'll be hearing more about that from our friends over here shortly, was the Dark Sky Initiative. And I can come back and give some historical context if and when it's appropriate in a while. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathleen Nillis. I've owned a home in the Pines here in Rehoboth since 1997, which I bought, and it was characterized as a tear down. I did not tear it down. I was able to preserve it. It's a wonderful mid-century modern home on Kent Street. It's just right around the corner. So I'm very pleased to be able to use my professional background and personal interest in these topics. Professionally, I'm a retired tax attorney, and much of my practice did involve statutory construction. I worked for Congress for 4 years besides working in private practice. So I do have experience drafting statutes and trying to put statutes into plain English language. So hope to bring that to the committee, and I'm also very interested in some lighting ordinance possibilities for Rehoboth to really preserve its wonderful character. Thanks.
Mary Good. I have owned my home here since 2000 and been living in New York City, recently retired, and have moved here permanently. I am in one of the older homes as well, and I'm going to be doing a renovation versus a tear down.
Great.
I've got a number of old growth trees on my property that I'm very interested in. And my background is in human resources management, so I think the area that I would bring to this group is understanding change and people and how to communicate.
Okay.
I'm Andrea Hoffman. I live on Henlopen Avenue. We chose to move here to Rehoboth to buy property here for one big reason. We love the trees. We love the canopy. On my property, we also have a lot of old oaks, and I think this is the third time that I have been involved in a city organization that's had to do with trees. So it started out as the Mayor's Advisory Committee, it moved on to a different name, and finally, here I am, my third time around, loving trees and wanting to tend them.
Good morning, I'm Elise Burns. My husband and I bought our home in 1997. We actually live across the street on Henlopen from Andrea and her husband. We also bought because of the pines and the wonderful urban tree canopy that we have in the pines. I was also on the Tree and Green Infrastructure Committee, also served on the Stormwater Task Force. So I have a keen interest in preserving and protecting our trees, both on public lands and private property. And I'm also a master gardener, so I have a lot of background in native plants. And we actually removed our lawn, and we have a whole yard of native plants. So happy to be here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Heather Metz. I was originally on the First Environment Committee with a number of other committee members today. I feel like we did some good work, so hopefully we can continue that today. My background is in civil engineering, so pretty straightforward. We have been homeowners for 10 years. We hope to move here permanently in the future, so we are the crazy people on Bayard Avenue. We're renovating our house. We didn't want to tear it down, but right now it's 5 feet up in the air on stilts. It's quite the spectacle if anybody wants to come by and check it out. Again, we did not want to tear down our 100-year-old Craftsman house, so we're doing a renovation and hope to move in permanently when it's done.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your introductions. I am Craig Thier. I'm the chair, and I am currently an elected commissioner here in the city of Rehoboth Beach. I've lived here full-time about 4.5 or so years now. I've owned my property here since 2002, and like many of you, there's so many great things about this community, and certainly the environment, the trees, all of that is just really, really important to me, which is why I'm very excited to not only be participating in this, but to have everyone, participate with me as well. I thank everyone for volunteering, and I thank everyone for committing their time to this committee. What I want to do is, at this point, just a few things I need to go through related to kind of the order, right, how we'll run this committee. But I do want to very quickly, by 10:15, hand this off for the Dark Skies presentation. We do have guests here today. I want to make sure that we're respectful, particularly when we have guests here. We're running these meetings on time and getting them up and out as quickly as possible. So having said that, I need to start with going over civility, as it's called. First off, I intend this to be a collaborative committee, okay? And I really want to emphasize that. So though I picked the 2 agenda items for today, I did that, and I did that with some consultation. I did that simply for the purpose of giving us an opportunity to hit the ground running, okay? Going forward, at the end of this meeting, we're all going to throw out potential future agenda items. It will be up to this committee to decide those agenda items, what the priority of those agenda items are. Not up to me in terms of inviting future guests. We do have guests today that I brought as part of Dark Skies. Again, it'll be up to all of us to decide who the future guests will be, not up to me individually. Having said that, welcome everyone's passion, right? Everyone should be passionate up here, okay? I encourage diverse perspectives, so we should debate things back and forth, okay, in a very healthy fashion. But again, no personal attacks. Let's just keep it respectful. In terms of meetings, my goal is meetings are going to be 75 minutes long, so we're going to schedule these meetings for 1 hour and 15 minutes. We'll max out at an hour and 30 minutes. So if we get past that 75-minute, you're going to hear me talking about, okay, we got to wrap up in 15 minutes. And the reality is there's no reason, if we manage our agendas effectively, we can't get done in 75 minutes, run efficient and effective meetings. Okay, so that's my goal. As far as FOIA goes, and this is going to relate to agenda items, everything has to be properly noticed. So if it's not on the agenda, we can't discuss it. Okay, that doesn't mean at the end of every meeting, we'll have future agenda items. We can identify things for future discussion. We just can't discuss it. So at the end of today's meeting, we'll come up with a list of future agenda items. And then at the next meeting, we'll discuss those, prioritize those, whatever the case may be. As I think everyone has heard, the Board of Commissioners wants to approve items that we're going to work on. So let me define what that means, okay? So one, obviously, we need to have the opportunity to identify items for future agendas. We also need to have the opportunity to do what I'm going to call as discovery, so having initial discussions about those items. I think what's important is when we discuss those items, and this is going to wrap it back to the agenda a little bit here, is any item that we identify, it needs to be focused. So think about items that we can get through in 2 meetings. If we're going to meet every other month, okay, if it takes us 3 meetings to get through an agenda item, that's 6 months. I don't want to spend, us to go 6 months working on an agenda item. So if we identify items that are going to take more than 2 meetings, then we probably need to think about that item and can we break that apart into multiple items. And again, this is more philosophical, okay? I appreciate that in practicality. It's going to be a little more difficult and nuanced, okay? So we'll identify stuff. We'll do some discovery. In between identifying and doing that discovery, I will go and meet with the city manager. These are the things that we're talking about. I want to make sure that if there are items that he or his staff are currently working on, we're not working on those, or if it's a timing issue, again, if there's something out there that we shouldn't be working on it, I want to get it off the list right away. I don't want to spending time. Otherwise, we'll go into some discovery. If it gets through that discovery, and again, I'm thinking 1 meeting for discovery, go to the Board of Commissioners and get approval, okay? And then we can get into actually working on the item. So I don't want everyone to think here, oh, we can't talk about anything at all until we go to the Board of Commissioners. No, we'll identify things, we'll go through some discovery, and then we'll go get approval, okay? And there's reasons for that. And again, I think everyone understands why the Board of Commissioners wants to approve things. One is, want to make sure there's support at that level, so we're not spending a lot of time here on things that are never going to get approved by the Board of Commissioners. Want to make sure that the timing's correct. Want to make sure that if the city manager or the city is working on a particular initiative, we allow them to work on it and not get involved, okay? At this point, what I want to do is go ahead. Let me stop there for a second. It's 10:15. Any questions on what I had just said? Okay. Again, this is informal, so we're the Board of Commissioners. You have to get approval from the mayor to speak. It's not the way we're going to run things here. I want this to be collaborative and respectful. Just when someone speaks, respect their speaking. Let's not cut each other off, but let's keep that flow of communication and dialogue. All right, before we turn it over, so we need 1 more minute, so it'll be like 10:16. We need to elect a vice chair and a secretary. Just so everyone knows, my goal with secretary is you're not going to do the minutes. We're going to use AI to do the draft of the minutes. So, vice chair, anyone want to volunteer to be vice chair?
Correct, what does that mean? Be vice chair, what is the role?
So, I think the main thing with vice chair is if we have a meeting and I'm not here, you would step in as the chair. Okay. Did I miss anything, Marco? That was good summary. Okay.
Has anyone served as vice chair for another committee that would have the experience?
Well,
Okay.
I would be happy to do it, given that definition, that brief definition. However, just to be very open, I am away for 2 months, the months of February and March. So I will not be here. Now, if we're providing Zoom opportunities for snowbirds, then there's that opportunity. But just to let you know that, you know, if it's more appropriate to have somebody that is always here, then,
Okay.
then we can go that direction.
Secretary, anybody want to volunteer for secretary? Okay, all right. Back to the chair. Who wants to be chair? Vice chair, excuse me. Vice chair.
I'm not here enough. I don't have.
I have the same challenge
Okay.
as Dick in terms of
Who's here?
availability.
Francis, I know you're here full-time with me. Which of the two positions can I nominate you for? Vice chair or
Could
secretary?
you describe the secretary's job?
Well, the secretary, you know, we're going to use AI, so my expectation is that the secretary will actually have less responsibilities than the vice chair because AI is going to do the minutes. We'll distribute the minutes to everyone, okay? And we'll approve them, so,
Whichever.
okay. I'll nominate you, I'll nominate you as vice chair. I'm going to nominate, make sure I get this right, I'm going to nominate Francis as vice chair.
Craig,
Go ahead. Yes.
I'll do secretary.
Okay, at least do secretary. So we'll vote on vice chair first.
Do we need a second?
A motion, so nominations are closed for vice chair. Is there a motion?
I make a second your motion for vice chair.
She's got to do it first, right? I can't
yeah.
do a
Oh, you
motion.
Yeah.
should do it? Okay. I nominate Francis for vice chair.
I second.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Looks like
Great.
we've got everyone, 9-0, right? Okay, all right, so now I need a nomination for,
I nominate Elise for secretary.
I need a second.
Second.
Second. Oh, sure.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 9-0. Satisfactory? Okay, having said that, it's now 10:18. Unless anyone has anything additional, I'm going to turn it over to the Dark Skies presentation. Okay, great. Jan, Frank, Kate?
I think it's easier if I just use this. I was actually going to start one way, and then Dick walked in, and he said, I feel like it's deja vu. Well, that was my start for today. So what I'll start is saying, if you don't first succeed, then try again. I can't begin to tell you how many times we have done this presentation. I know Heather has seen it. I know Elise has seen it. I know Kathleen has seen it. Dick has seen it. Mary has seen it. Francis has seen it, you know. So I'm going to give just a short background, and then Frank is going to walk through the presentation. Those of you who've seen it before know our routine. We started this in 2010. Okay? It's part of the CDP from 2010. We spent a lot of time on it, and then nothing happened. And in 2019 or 20, I think Kate and Frank and I were with a bunch of people, and I said, I have a project. And my project is I'm going to take the 2010 CDP, and I'm going to look at all the things that we never accomplished, and I'm going to try and get them accomplished. And I said, I'm starting with Dark Skies. Do you all know what that was? Well, my two buddies, Kate and Frank, said, we want to help because they also were into Dark Skies. So we started making our presentations, Beach and Boardwalk. At the time, Verizon was going to put those big, well, Heather knows, the power of things up there, and it was going to be a nightmare. So we started with Beach and Boardwalk. We did the commissioners, we did the environmental committee, and we got a resolution passed. And what we learned is that resolutions are not worth the paper they're printed on. After we got the resolution passed by the city, a former public works director went ahead and ordered all the streetlights, none of which are dark sky compliant, after he was the one that said they were going to do it. So that's where we are now. We have a public works director who is an amateur astronomer, which of course makes him a proponent of dark skies. So I'm just going to introduce, oh, by the way, the 2020 CDP, which wasn't introduced until 2022, also talks about dark skies, referring back to 2010 like it happened then. So I'm going to let Frank is going to do the presentation. And then after he does the presentation, Kate and I are going to come up. This time we have an ordinance. No more resolutions. We have an ordinance. And it's a rough ordinance. It's not ready for prime time yet, but after Frank finishes, Kate and I will come up and we'll talk a little bit about the ordinance, some of the key points in the ordinance. And then we're going to talk about, not only do we want this city to be dark sky compliant, we also want them to be dark sky certified, which is a whole different thing, and we're going to ask for all of your help on that too. So Frank?
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Jan. Thank you for championing this cause and keeping at it, and I appreciate it. And to the chairman, thank you very much for your vision in forwarding this. Let me see if we can get this up here. Can I get this up on the? Okay, we are Dark Skies Rehoboth. It's the three of us. We have a lot more people who champion this cause. And one of the things that this presentation, I'll run through it quickly because of time constraints, but we really, it's more than just about dark skies itself. It's about light on a lot of different levels. The light trespass. So it's light pollution. So there's sky glow, there's glare, which is what you see when you see a light and the source of the light shines in your eyes. There's light trespass when people shine lights from their property onto other people's property is the case here. I mean, there's light trespass in other ways. But as far as the city of Rehoboth Beach goes, there are neighbors who will put spotlights on their house that shine into other people's houses, and they're helpless to do anything about it. I mean, you cannot stop light at the corner of your property. And energy waste is the other thing, that there's more lights on. I'm always appalled when I see office buildings in cities at night that are vacant and every light is on. It's like, what are people thinking, you know? And so sky glow, I'm sure people understand that if you are out in a rural area and you see a city or a town, you see that aura of light above it, and it blinds your view of the stars in the sky. Glare, as I spoke before, is just staring at light, and there's more on that later in far as it's. Yeah.
The slides aren't moving.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My slides are. Yeah.
Marco, do you know why they're not moving on the screen?
Okay, there we go. Sorry. I was clicking with my mouse. So we've seen sky glow. We've discussed glare and light trespass. Some reason we're not. Sorry about this.
Ecological impacts?
This is a case that's, I don't know why this isn't showing up early.
Yeah, mine won't advance either. It's weird.
It can either work or not work.
Apparently my PowerPoint is corrupted here. I've got.
Now I got it. You have to escape. If you have it maximized, you have to escape out of there.
I'm going to restart this. I'm going to reboot the whole thing. Okay, this is a case that's on Kent Street, and this is a multiple violator here. This is light trespass from a new DPL LED street light that is color, temperature insensitive. It's blasting into everybody's windows, And yeah, and it's just obnoxious. I mean, and one of the reasons I'm frantic to get the city to actually pass an ordinance is that DPL is going to be installing these unless it's against code in the city of Rehoboth. So it's important that we get a handle on this before this becomes pervasive, and it's a matter of trying to get them to change lights retroactively as opposed to installing compliant lights to begin with. There are ecological impacts, and we're all aware of the sea turtles and whatnot, and the light pollution disrupts their breeding patterns. There's health issues. The color temperature is important here, but generally not having darkness at night and the right color temperature lights at night actually causes human health issues. And this is not conjecture. This is the American Medical Association has been aware of this for a long time, since 2016. When we talk about light temperature, we're talking about the color of light, and this has become a greater and greater issue with LED lights, which typically what we consider a white LED light has more blue and is a higher Kelvin rating than the older street lights, for instance, which were filament bulbs that burned at a kind of warm temperature. As far as preserving the character of the city of Rehoboth Beach, the city of Rehoboth Beach, probably since its inception, the street lights were very low Kelvin incandescent bulbs. And that was because the fact that the lower the temperature of those filaments, the longer they lasted. So that's what the power companies put in. They put those very low temperature bulbs in. And that is the character of the city of Rehoboth Beach. That's one of the elements that, when we're talking about preserving the character of the city, the color temperature of the lights, what the streets actually look like, is part of that. And so for me, this is one of the most important things going forward, is that the lights that are installed be of a color temperature. Typically in modern applications, you want to be under 3,000 Kelvin. So, yes?
Just a point of clarification, I did research what the current high-pressure sodium vapor lights in the city,
Right.
the ones that have an orange glow, those lights are typically between 2,000 and 2,500. So they're like really
Off the
at
chart.
far end
Right.
of that chart. Just so you know, that's what we're used to.
Right.
Whereas most LEDs are well beyond the midpoint of that chart.
Exactly. It's a dramatic difference. And it's hard to overstate how much different a street looks and how people look. I mean, I had a friend who was a lighting director for movies and television and ads and whatnot. And he could make people look horrible by changing the color temperature of the light. And they use gels and stuff to change, but it changes the way people look. I mean, literally, I mean, they look healthy or unhealthy. I mean, and it is unhealthy. So it's an important thing. It sounds like we're getting into the weeds, but it's a critical thing. One of the blowbacks you get from some people on this, that more light is safer, and that there are security issues of this. And I don't know whether you can see the slide very well, but in the upper slide, we see a case of light glare, and it affects the camera that took this picture the same way it affects human eyes, in that your retina closes up to protect itself from that bright light. And in fact, it makes everything you see darker because it's trying to protect itself from the glare light. And so you do not see things in the peripheral. Now, he puts his hand up and shields that glare, and there you see a person standing in that gateway that you could not see before. And so the fact is that if efficient light that's directed where it's needed and not where it's unneeded and where it does not glare is safer light. as opposed to just more light. So there's just a very big distinction here between the type of light and how it's applied. And this is this shows you the basic types of light where you have things like we have on the boardwalk that are just, they shine everywhere. They shine on people's homes, they shine in the sky, and it's really unfortunate that they never really fixed that, as opposed to the best, which just shines adequate light where it's needed and when it's needed. I won't go through each one of these too much, but this is the basic tenets of outdoor lighting. It's that the light be useful, it be targeted directly where it's needed, that the light level be no brighter than necessary, and controlled, targeted directly on what's needed, controlled, and warm colored. So they're the basic tenets of dark skies. So it goes beyond just dark skies. This is a system of controlling light so that it's useful and not obnoxious in any way. Now my yeah. It's funny, I never had. Very sorry, I've never had this problem, actually. Okay, the next steps would be for the mayor and commissioners to approve all lighting in the city be compliant by passing a dark sky ordinance. And the ordinance is attached to our presentation in the so we had, as Jan pointed out, this was in the CDP in 2010 and 2020, and it's just high time to enact this. So I hope this committee will present what we've given you as sample legislation, which is actually, Jan said it was unpolished. I think it's fairly polished personally. And it is actually in place in Brisbane, California. So we've taken sample legislation that's actually in use. And I would hope this committee would forward a package to the mayor and commissioners that was an ordinance, something that they can actually, pass as far and not get too much into the weeds. I think that's your job, is to get into the weeds of this and hammer out something that works for the city of Rehoboth. So thank you very much, and I apologize for my presentation.
No worries, Frank. Frank, thank you for giving that presentation. I've seen it before, and I appreciate you taking the time to do it today. Before I turn it over to Jan to go through the code, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the way I see things going forward from here, so everyone can be thinking about this while Jan talks about the code. So presentation was education, though I think many of the members up here are very familiar with dark skies. Maybe not all the specifics, but familiar with the concept or the idea. Jan and Kate are going to go through some, I'll call it proposed draft code for the city of Rehoboth Beach. So our objective up here between today and the next meeting is to come up with, I'm going to use the term draft code that we're going to submit to the Board of Commissioners for review and ultimately approval. So as Jan and Kate go through the code, please ask questions, please become familiar with it. what I'll be looking for everyone up here to do is between now and 2 weeks before the next meeting is to provide any feedback. That'll allow us to incorporate that feedback into that draft code. So when we meet again at our next meeting, we can go through that draft code, finalize it, and then refer it to the Board of Commissioners. Assume that from our discussion today, the feedback that I get, assume I'm working with city staff to confirm that we're all on the same page and they're comfortable with what we're proposing. And when I say city staff, I'm talking, the city manager, city solicitor, okay? I think as everyone knows, I can't talk to other commissioners about this, but I want them to be up to speed with what the code is, okay? What we're talking about here. And then we will, as I said, next meeting, and this kind of goes back to I want, our topics to go 2 meetings, not 3 meetings, whenever possible. We'll refer this to the Board of Commissioners for review and then hopefully ultimately approval. I think with the Board of Commissioners, proverbial devil's going to be in the details. We'll make recommendations, for example, on what the Kelvin should be. Maybe they'll decide that they want something different. And that's just an example of the devil in the details, okay? Questions on that before I turn it over to Jan and Kate?
I have a procedural
Yes.
question. So once, let's assume that all of this goes smoothly and we are able to have the commission pass an ordinance, how long does it actually take before that ordinance needs to be complied with?
It's in the ordinance.
It depends. It's all in the ordinance,
It's
Mary.
written in the ordinance.
Okay.
So it will tell you, for instance, and I will, one of the things that we haven't talked about was the proliferation of people's outdoor lights and the impact it has on their neighbors. We talked broadly about it, but we're seeing far more than when we all came to you, Dick, in 2021. We are seeing far more proliferation of neighbor lights. And on our 50 by 100 lots, most of them, it has huge impacts. I mean, your house on the inside can be lit up like day from your neighbor's property. This is very inappropriate. So one of the things that we've put in this, that we are suggesting in an ordinance, would be a compliance time, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, unless there's significant complaints. If there's significant complaints, then you've got to be able to comply very quickly.
So for the commercial hotels that are now being in process, they would need to, if this passes, they would need to design to that specification.
Correct, because everything new would have to be
construction
compliant.
has to comply.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're going to renovate your house, for instance, you would want to have dark sky compliant lighting. If you're going to build a hotel, I mean, one of the things that we're on, we would like to be on a fast track is, we thought the hotels were going to be built this winter. One of them is, one of them's not. But we wanted to have this passed before any new hotels are built, so that all of the lighting, and a lot of new construction, a lot of people are very into dark sky lighting, so they're looking at it right from the beginning. In a conversation I had with Henry, and I'll just add this, we're in fiscal year 26, is that right now? Yes. Okay, so in fiscal year 27, we just did the street lights, the big ones that hang over, that we own on Rehoboth Avenue. We also own, do you want me to stop for a minute? Okay. We also own the sidewalk lights, and they are scheduled to be replaced in fiscal year 27. Boardwalk lights, fiscal year 28. But Henry is trying to do the boardwalk lights and the street light, or the sidewalk lights, in fiscal year 27. That's on his list, I guess, to go to when you all go to budget hearings. So there is an urgency to get this passed so that we can be proactive in all of these things. And do you all have the article from Pittsburgh? Marco, did you pass out the stuff? This one, right? I can't see.
We have the section by section,
the only
but I
thing we
don't
have
see
is
an
your,
article from.
your summary.
No, there wasn't an article.
Get to this. I'm the one that found it.
I know.
There wasn't an article.
All right. Well, I will make sure that you all get the article from Pittsburgh. because it really, Pittsburgh is actually dimming their streetlights, even though they're already dark sky compliant. They're actually dimming the dark sky compliant ones. And they're saving tons of money, as we talked about earlier, by having dark sky compliant streets. Pittsburgh is a huge city. So I'm going to get, Kate is going to start going through this, and you have the line by line. I can see how this is.
Okay,
Section by section.
right.
And
And we thank Kathleen for this really beautiful section by section advice on how to summarize in plain language. And since you have it in front of you, I'm not going to read it word for word, but you have an introduction, which is what this document is, and then the title and purpose of the ordinance is, as we've said, to maintain common courtesy among neighbors, which I think is really critical, but at the same time provide sufficient lighting. So it's not one way or the other. We're really trying to make sure everybody has a satisfaction here. Then definitions, I think we've all gone over definitions quite a bit. And there was a question, I think, about applicability. We go through what outdoor light fixtures, and here's this all existing light fixtures that were installed prior to the effective date will generally be given a year to comply. And then outdoor fixtures installed or replaced after the effective date have to be compliant upon installation. So I think that's really what we were talking about, really critical. There's certain activities that are not subject to the ordinance, some things, school districts, fire alarms, and so forth, and limited applicability for public street lights, athletic fields, and that kind of thing. Then there's a whole section on citywide requirements, and I think you were going to talk about that, Jan, the citywide requirements. Shielding, light trespass generally prohibited, limitations on outdoor lighting. I think a lot of us are very eager for that to go in. Lighting color is critical. And then the lighting curfew, that generally the curfew is 10 p.m., especially for residential. And then we have a little seasonal lighting can be allowed, so we can have lots of colors in various seasons.
lots of Christmas lights.
Yes.
Which I notice are already up, and it's not even Thanksgiving.
Yes.
The lumens on streetlights will also be regulated. And one of the things that we are really concerned about is that the requirements of streetlights, and that what we pass in our code, Delmarva Power, since we don't, like Lewis has the Board of Public Works that does their streetlights, we don't. We have Delmarva Power. Whatever we do, Delmarva Power must comply with. So we need to make sure from a legal point of view that they are required, since they have most of, except for Rehoboth Avenue, they really own the streetlights in town. So when I talked earlier about the non-conforming, with how long they have to go in, that's something that needs to be decided upon. The one thing, and this is the article, and did Marco, did you say it's on the website, the article? Oh, okay, I thought we were passing it out to everybody here. So, so you all can download it from the website. And it's a wonderful article, and I'm not going to go over it because Craig is a really, he's counting the minutes. He's counting the minutes. So I'm talking fast. You know, we waited a long time for this, Craig. One of the things that I think is hugely important for us, especially as a resort town, is that we not only become dark sky compliant, we become dark sky certified, which means that the International Dark Sky Association certifies us. And it's a great for a tourist community, the kind of people it attracts, astronomers, amateur astronomers. The first city in the country to become dark sky certified was Flagstaff, Arizona. So this is a big city. Most of them are in the west, although there's a place in Florida, and I don't know, correct, Groveland, Florida. I figure it must be in the Orange Grove district. That is dark sky certified. If we become dark sky certified, we will be the only town on the East Coast from Maine to Florida on the coastal area that's dark sky certified. I called and found out. So what we need to do, and first the thing you need to do is you need to pass a dark sky quality lighting ordinance. So we have to get that done first. But we also need public education, citizen support, an ongoing group to look at this and then fill out all the forms that certification requires. So I think that I'm hoping that some of the people will volunteer to work with us on that, because if we didn't give up since 2010, we're not going to give up now. So we're hoping that you all are going to get this through the mayor and the commissioners. And again, the ordinance needs a lot of work on it still. We took it from another town in California, Brisbane, California, not Australia, and it needs work still, which we will do in time for your January meeting. Some of us will get together and work on that. But we wanted to be ready for you all today. So do you have any questions for any of us? I'm trying to hurry this through.
So I appreciate
Dick had a question.
you walking
Yeah.
through that, and I think, Dick, so
If there's time, Commissioner.
absolutely there is time. So what I'd like to do is I appreciate Kathleen and Jan and Kate putting together this section by section rather than us walking through the code. What I'd like to do is just get everyone's feedback, not only on this, but anything else, any other considerations, concerns, whatever it may be. I'll take some notes up here. So go ahead, Dick.
Thank you very much. It's great to have the three of you back here advocating for this and really having even pulled more information together. I think we can be on a roll. A couple of detailed...
Can you speak into the microphone?
Yeah. A couple of detailed items that you may or may not have dealt with yet. So the Del Dot roads that are in our city, for example, parts of Rehoboth Avenue. I live right off of State Road. That's a state, actually a Delaware state road. I know that Delmarva Power deals with the street lights. What might be the cooperation with Del Dot, or is it automatically with Delmarva Power and Del Dot isn't even involved?
That's a to-do. I've
Yeah,
written a to-do
okay.
list, Dick, thank
Sure,
you.
okay.
Because Columbia Avenue is also
Yes.
owned by Del Dot, yeah.
Yeah, good, thank you. And then another item that becomes always critical with an ordinance is the concept of enforcement. Once these things go into effect, who, how, what falls under enforcement. It's critical, but that really has to be thought through very, very thoroughly. And it's going to take staff power, it's going to take education, understanding, and so on.
So if I could, real quick, comment on those. I want to make sure I'm understanding on the Del Dot roads. If we pass this ordinance, they have to comply on state road, or we're not sure? I'm not sure what the research was that you were saying.
We did not look at Del Dot roads.
Okay.
I actually didn't think, I just thought about the lights, the Delmarva lighting fixtures. I never thought about Del Dot roads. And Henry might know the answer to that too, because Rehoboth Avenue is a Del Dot road and they just did all the lights on Rehoboth Avenue.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's been some other areas of cooperation, within just the last couple of years in terms of putting ADA compliant crossings. And I was told years ago on State Road, oh no, we can't do that, it's Del Dot. Well, with the right public works director and a cooperative spirit, yes, those things can come together, and they have.
So we can follow up on that one. I can help you
Right,
follow up
I
on
got
that
it.
one. As far as enforcement, yes. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'll communicate with the city manager because enforcement clearly is part of this, and how they'll go about. Again, very loose terms here, standards for the developers, okay, and then enforcement of those standards. Again, I use the term standards really, really loosely, right? But a lot of this to me, particularly in the residential area, comes back to the LED lights, right? These quote unquote great bright lights, but we have these bright lights, and it's just, again, what I would term as, simple disrespect between neighbors and what lights they put up and how they position them. In Frank's presentation, lots of great options to respect your neighbor and eliminate that light trespass. So again, back to enforcement, we do need the city to kind of weigh in on the best way to proceed with this. So, okay, thank you, Dick. Any other questions, or I'll go with that.
So I was wondering, the proposed ordinance gives a year for everybody to come into compliance with outdoor lighting. And I just wonder what your sense, I mean, it's easy enough for people to swap out a light bulb, but if people have unshielded lights that require new fixtures or replacing a whole structure, what is your sense how extensive that would be and how difficult that would be for residents to deal with?
Well, and I want to add, and the cost. I know there's research that has been done on the cost.
Well, I just look on the internet. They're not very expensive.
Right.
The shielded lights are not very expensive. You can get them for $15 at Home Depot. So, this is not a Section 8 community.
Right.
And I'll end it by saying that.
Right.
And we can all go to Home Depot and buy these lights. But I think, Mary, on your question, what I would say is no one's going to come enforce it if no one complains. And we have all seen, many of us have seen some pictures of what it looks like when your neighbor is not a good neighbor. I know somebody who sold their house and moved because they couldn't deal with the neighbor's lights shining in their house 24 hours a day. So those are the kind of things that will get reported to the city right away. If somebody has an unshielded light and it's not bothering anybody, I don't think that, the city's not going to drive up and down the streets. They don't do it now, and enforce things. I think it will depend upon the severity. But for new construction, it would all be enforced.
Yeah, and I think we do have to, though, light trespass, there probably has to be some kind of a measurement, scientific measurement, and I do understand that in the dark skies model ordinance, they basically have a number of luxes that, and you can get on Amazon a lux meter. The city would have to purchase that. So if somebody complained, my neighbor's lights are shining into my windows and into my yard, 24/7, then a lux meter could be used to measure that. But we would probably have to define that scientifically in the ordinance for that to be fair. It can't just be, light trespass. I can see their lights from my house.
We had to do that with the noise ordinance back in the 90s when we passed the first noise ordinance. We had decibels, we had to get decibel meters and all that stuff. Yeah.
So there's some little fine tuning, and I guess
Exactly.
another bit of fine tuning I'd like to see done is on the lumen output of streetlights. I think we need to know what the current lumen output of the high sodium, our traditional streetlights, what that is, which we don't know because I tried to figure out, or we asked the city
Delmarva,
official, Henry, was it?
Yeah.
He did not know the wattage of the high pressure sodium streetlights. So we need to know what the wattage is, and from that we can pretty much derive what the lumens is, and then we can kind of make our decisions accordingly to make sure that things are consistent, so new lights are not put in that have a huge variation from the existing lights, both in color, temperature, and lumen output.
I don't like, Elise had her hand up. I don't know if I'm calling on her.
One specific question. When I read through the ordinance quickly, I noticed there was a description of motion detector lights. And I don't see that in the summary. I mean, how would they be treated under the ordinance?
We don't know yet, so that is a question that you give to Craig. I'm writing this stuff down. As we said, this is somebody else's ordinance that we tweaked.
Okay.
And we didn't finish tweaking it, and because we have to look at our ordinance. But the city, and I don't know, the city of Lewis in their subdivision ordinance requires dark sky lighting, compliant lighting. However, they don't call it dark sky lighting because they were afraid everybody would scream bloody murder. Instead, they just have these requirements. And they got them from the Society of Illuminating Professionals or Illuminating Engineers, I don't forget which one it is, which is who the dark sky international organization also uses. They work together on this stuff, and that's how Lewis got them. But they only have it in new subdivisions. Right now in Lewis, the police and others are pushing back on everything, so they've not been able to pass anything. That's not an issue, that public safety is not an issue with dark sky communities.
Okay. And my
Okay.
second question was, I mean, what is the difference between being dark sky compliant and then dark sky certified? I mean,
Okay.
what are the additional requirements to be certified?
I-
mean, we keep
okay.
talking about a lot of paperwork,
Well, it's not
but is there more than that?
first you have to have the ordinance.
Right, I get that. You have to
Okay.
have the ordinance, but are there additional requirements?
They have ongoing effort for certification, includes submitting annual reports to demonstrate current compliance and commitment. You have to have a committee who continues to work on this.
Okay,
I mean, I can give you,
okay.
I think it's in the, I think that was one of the ones I gave you, Marco, about being dark sky compliant. I think it's right on the website with all the other documents.
Okay. I think that's going to be an important,
It's a formal application that you submit, okay? But you have to have the lighting ordinance, that's the big thing. You have to have an outreach and education plan. You have to get the supporting document, and I haven't looked, letters of support from local officials, businesses, and community organizations. I would think, and Dick, for example, I would think Main Street would just love this, because it would really bring in, it would be good for the community in lots of ways, but tourism also. And then it would be listed on the internet, on the International Dark Sky website as all of the places. Now, 17 national parks are currently approved. Moab, Utah, what a surprise, right? If you've ever been to Moab. So there are lots of places that are approved already. It's just something that we will have to do, and I think we have made that commitment, that at least Kate and I have, that we will continue to do this. We just need to have other warm bodies helping us. So.
I have two questions. From the research that you've done of the communities that have implemented this, is there any correlation between a community being dark skies certified and property values increasing? First question. Second question is around the issue of change management. So those cities that have implemented this, what have been the biggest challenges that they have found in getting a code through a commission?
Great question.
It's a great question, and I would say that further research is needed, but also, I mean, a big issue is people don't want to change what they have, you know, and they don't think they're going to be safe. In Lewis right now, I talked to the Lewis Dark Sky person yesterday. They've been trying. They've only been trying a year. I can't believe, and they're ready to give up. I mean, what a bunch of pikers. But there's the police. The police are saying, well, you know, we have to rig bright lights everywhere. And that's their big holdup over in Lewis. That's what she's telling me. She said, I suspect that there are other people who have lots of lights and they don't want to change. But right now, it's going on to the police. And I don't think that's an issue. There's tons of stuff on public safety and dark sky, and it really is not an issue.
And any sense of property values? Is this considered to be a desirable certification
I have not really
community to have?
looked at it. Generally speaking, the more restrictive your rules are, the higher the property values, but I have no idea if that's the truth. I can look at that. We'll look that up, Mary, and let you guys know.
Thank you.
I wanted to address the question about implementation of an ordinance on existing lighting and the pushback you might get on that because of the fact is that if we pass this and the newer houses that are going in are all dark sky compliant, I think it creates a wave of what is the new thing. Right now, these new houses that are going in, they are putting such an amazing amount of exterior illumination that becomes like, that's what people are doing now. That is the trend. I think if we can reverse the trend, if the new houses are compliant, I think people will see that like, oh, that's so 2000s, you know, to have all these lights on your house, and they become the white elephant. So I think it would generally set a trend that really wouldn't require necessarily that much city, enforcement. That it would be a societal change.
Yeah. Just based on my observation of a community that I don't know if they're dark sky certified, but they certainly have a dark sky compliant ordinance, which is Palm Springs, California.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pleasure to walk around there after dark. And I don't think in any way the restrictions that they have on uplighting have made the community less safe. If anything, it has the opposite effect.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd just point out, and certainly a discussion with our police force would be good on the early end, but it's my understanding that if people are worried about, someone breaking into their home when they're not there or when they are there, the absolutely number one security thing that thieves or what burglars do not like is cameras. It's not the lights. The lights can sometimes be an aid, especially if you're not there, to picking a lock. I mean, it's the 24/7 lights that people put on when they are not occupying and they're not even in town are just kind of crazy. They don't do a darn thing, but people don't realize that. I think so some education is necessary.
I'm not sure if, who is or is not aware, but the new street lights that are on Rehoboth Avenue, they are dimmable. I'm not sure if people are aware.
Yeah, Henry told me they're dimmable.
So my hope is that you're talking about the future street lights that are coming. My hope is that those would be dimmable as well. And when we talk about public safety, my hope is that would satisfy that, right? Because in a time of need or in a situation of need, they can have access, they can bring the lights up as they need to.
Well, what they have done in Pittsburgh is they have dark sky compliant street lights, but they're finding they can even dim those after 10 o'clock at night. So our street lights are not dark sky compliant, but they are dimmable. My hope is and I think from conversation that both Frank and I have had with Henry, is that the sidewalk lights are the cities and the boardwalk lights are the cities, and they will be put in as dark sky compliant. They will not be like Kevin ordered for the ones on the streets. They will be dark sky compliant, and they also will be dimmable even more so. And I know some people in Star of the Sea, I mean, some of the people who we were inundated the last time with letters, and one of the guys, Jeff Cochran, he said, I wish I could be there, but I'm in the North Atlantic headed somewhere right now. But the Henlopen people complain all the time about the lights on the boardwalk shining into their condos. Jeff is in Star of the Sea, and they shine in there too. And he's also an amateur astronomer. So I would hope that you all, we would all hope that you all not take this over, but get this through the commission, and we will get as many lobbyists as we can in there to do that. And I know, hopefully we will not have to wait. I'm getting older, folks. I can't go another 25, 15 years. I don't think I'll be here.
Oh, goodness, Jan.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay.
Oh, Bunky had one.
Can you feel the
Yes, any, can I open it for public comments? Okay, public comments. As far as public comments go, we're going to follow the same rules as Board of Commissioners, 3-minute limit. Just approach. You got it. Please approach and state your name.
I'm Bunky Markert, City of Rehoboth Beach. I just had a question. There was something that Frank said that I just wanted to clarify. When you were talking about light temperature and you kind of compared it to incandescence, you meant the color, right? We're not like in any way talking about going back to incandescent lights. That's what
No, it's just that the incandescent lights generally had lower color temperatures than they've been using on current LED. When you're talking about LED lights, they can, at this point, they can be any color temperature. Right, okay. The stuff that the first generation of LED lights tended to be very high Kelvin blue, and they are, and generally the wave of the future. There's no question that the energy savings and longevity make that what we're going to be installing. I don't think anybody's talking about going back to incandescent lights.
I just wanted to point that out. One other question was, I'm aware, as in my former job, life, whatever, there are Department of Transportation standards with regard to lighting, but I think it would behoove us to have find a contact at DelDOT just to find out what that is, because there are standards, and if we're like thinking it's Delmarva Power, it may be more than that. So I just wanted to think. And the other thing I just wanted to comment, the last couple nights, you could see the Aurora Borealis from Milton. Couldn't see it here, So I'm just saying, if we had that, it'd be an added bonus. So I just want to throw that in.
Any other comments? Okay, great. Any other questions up here? Okay, so to do for everyone up here, I did take some notes. I will make sure those notes get forwarded on to those working on the code, but at least 2 weeks prior to the next meeting date, please provide your feedback. You can send it to me, send it at my city email address, and I'll make sure that gets incorporated into the next draft of the code. At the next meeting, we'll look at the next draft of the code with the goal of finalizing that for submission to the Board of Commissioners. Okay, it is now 11:09-ish. What I'd like to do is spend 10 minutes going through the Lakes Management Plan tops. Main thing I'm going to do with the Lakes Management Plan is just a little background and then define next steps, so what we'll do in the next meeting. And then we'll spend the last 10 minutes on future agenda items and get out of here no later than 11:30. Any questions? Everyone okay? All right. Marco, could you bring up the Lakes Management Plan presentation? I'll start walking through this, but I'm going to ask Rick Hardy, maybe I'll ask him to introduce himself real quickly. He will, he is part of, I'll let you introduce yourself. Can you introduce yourself real quickly? Yeah, absolutely.
So my name is Rick Hardy. I am the president of Save Our Lakes Alliance 3. If many of you, I think, are aware of our organization, as we have worked with the city for over 20 years on trying to prove the quality and protection of the lakes. So we've done a lot of work in the Lakes Management Plan, and we do water testing, a lot of observation of the neighborhoods as well when it comes to storm drains, things like that.
Okay. I've asked Rick to help me. He really understands a lot of the history and background of the lakes. As Rick had said, Rick, myself, Ken Conacy's here. We're part of a team that tests the lakes weekly during the summer. So let me go ahead and walk through the PowerPoint that I have. First slide, area lakes. I hope everyone is familiar with these, but Lake Gerard, that is in the city of Rehoboth Beach. We have Lake Comegys, that is in Dewey Beach. It drains into Silver Lake. And then we have Silver Lake, which is bordered by City of Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach, and Sussex County. So we have unincorporated sections of, unincorporated lands in Sussex County that border that. DENREC has jurisdiction over Lake Subcutaneous, I copied this off the internet, so bear with me, Lake Subcutaneous land up to the ordinary, thank you, up to the ordinary high water mark. And that's important because anything you want to do where the water is, DENREC has to be involved. You have to get their approval. That's why I call that out. Next slide, please, Marco. Thank you for doing this. I like to use the term technically lakes because to me they've really just become stormwater basins, right? Some do have springs, some do have groundwater feeding them, but at the end of the day, most of what's going through there now is stormwater. And the challenge with that is, with that stormwater comes sediment, and that sediment is filling up the lakes. It occurs over a long period of time, but I think as with anything, and why I brought this up as an agenda item, I think we need to be planning for the future with our lakes. As we know, and sometimes people don't understand this, but when we experience beach closures of our ocean, I'm talking our ocean beaches, that is directly related to stormwater runoff. And it almost always occurs immediately following either a large storm or a storm that occurs after a particularly long dry period. And where that occurs is typically isolated or happens in the same locations. So again, the way we manage our lakes going forward, quote unquote, is going to help preserve our beaches and keep our beaches open. This is a tourist destination. The city, people come here because of our beaches, and it's not just the people that come here because of our beaches. Many of us live here because of those beaches, and it's very important that we take care of those beaches, not only now, but into the future. Mentioned runoff of sediment, stormwater utility. This is not, when I say EAC, Environmental Advisory Committee, it's not our item, okay? It's not what we've been approved to talk about. So I just wanted to note that here. Next slide, please, Marco. Okay, management plan. So over the years, there have been at least 3 plans that have been drafted. Those are listed here. The first one, and again, these are ones that I'm aware of. I may ultimately find out that there's more than this, but there was a plan that was drafted in January 2009. The second one was August of 2012. And then the most recent one was December of 2023. All 3 of these are attached to the agenda. Feel free to look at those. Next slide, please, Marco. Okay. Lake Girard overview. So as I mentioned, or as I noted on one of the earlier slides, Lake Comegys is not in the city of Rehoboth. Silver Lake, there are 3 municipalities that border that. And what I didn't note in the earlier slide is under the current, the way things are currently done, that lake is quote unquote jointly managed by those 3 municipalities. Lake Girard is in the city of Rehoboth Beach. So again, kind of with my theme here, I want to, focus on items that we can move forward and move forward quickly. I thought our lakes management plan initially would focus on Lake Girard, and as we get through that, then we can talk about what makes sense for Silver Lake and how to ultimately work potentially Dewey Beach on Lake Comegys. Okay, so Lake Girard, just a few things on the overview. City of Rehoboth Beach manages and maintains. We contract a lot of that to Envirotech. Envirotech does use chemicals to control algae and does have some, and I use the term some very, very loosely, responsibility for maintenance of the buffer. As Rick and I mentioned earlier, we do water testing. This is done by volunteers. It's weekly in the summer, then phases off to monthly, and then we stop over the winter. It's supported by the University of Delaware, so we collect the data. Periodically, also collect water samples. We give those water samples to the University of Delaware. They run some tests on them, bacteria and whatnot. What we test for is listed up there, so depths, dissolved oxygen, and so on. We also do visual examination, so if we see something, algae or something, we take pictures, we submit that also to the University of Delaware. The buffer was installed. I was trying to find out the date that buffer was installed. I wasn't able to figure that out. Maybe someone knows, but that was installed to reduce erosion and runoff. Does anyone know the date when that was installed?
I think it's 2017.
I would suspect you could call Kitty Cole and she'll tell you immediately.
Okay. Yes.
I can also look back at our newsletters when that came out.
Okay. Next slide, please. On Lake Girard, there are stormwater scepters. I was initially told there was one stormwater scepter. In one of the reports that I looked at, the August, I'd mentioned those 3 plans that were drafted. One of those, one that was 2012, mentioned that there were 2. So I'm not sure if there's 1. I'm not sure if there's 2. I'm trying to find that out. What I do know, those scepters, it captures, reduces sediment runoff into the lake. Those are cleaned out by the city every 12 to 18 months. I'm also trying to find out the Lake Gerard capital projects. I hope to have that, and I will have that for the next meeting. There's 2 parts to this. One is what's in the city's operating capital budget, and then there is what's in the stormwater, quote-unquote, utility budget. I have really good insight into the city capital budget. Utility, I don't have really good insight into that right now, so I'm trying to find that out as well. Let me stop there. Any questions on Lake Gerard overview? Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. Did we skip one or?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Shoreline stabilization. So this was, I just want to bring this up. This was from the, as it says, the August 2012 report, and it talks about shoreline stabilization, and that preference should be given to the stabilization measures that are most consistent with other public objectives, including the provision of habitat for fauna, flora, and visual appeal. Therefore, using stabilization using indigenous vegetation supplemented as necessary by biologs and the like. Use of boulders, riprap would be a second best solution. So when we look at Lake Gerard, they put in the buffer. I think there are a lot of questions now, even with myself, that buffer, right? What does a best practices buffer look like? I hear, can you jump to the next slide, Marco? Okay. I'm kind of jumping down to the third one, which is research current buffer. And on this slide, what I'm trying to do is generate what I want to be is conversation amongst us. What should we do next? Okay. So first, stormwater scepters. I need to find out how many there actually are, where they are located. Okay. And I will do that. Need to identify areas where there's excessive runoff, whether it's causing erosion or sediment. We do know at the west end of the lake, we do have some sediment, quite a bit of sediment that is there in that west end of the lake. When I refer to the west end of the lake, I'm talking about what's really right out here, okay? I'm pointing, but I think everyone knows where I'm referring to. I think we need to research the current buffer. What I see is, what I hear should be 8 to 10 feet. It's much larger in a lot of areas. There are invasive plants in there. What is our current maintenance of that buffer? Is there maintenance? Is that maintenance appropriate? So again, researching the current buffer. I have had some suggestions on the contractors, right? And we use Envirotech. Should we have one contractor that does the assessment and the planning, and a second one that does the actual work? So let me stop here. Can you go to the next slide? Just want to make sure I'm not. Oh. Considerations continued. Chemicals are used in Lake Gerard. No chemicals are used in Silver Lake or Lake Comegys. I'm sure there's a history there. I don't know what that history is. I'm going to find out what that history is for the next meeting. Okay? And don't interpret this as I say we should be using chemicals. We should not be using chemicals. I'm asking that question. Developer mitigation of construction runoff, right? Is the code effective? Okay? And keep in mind, it's not just the construction that occurs right around the lake. We have the stormwater drains that are dumping into these lakes. So is the mitigation appropriate throughout the city to keep the sediment out? I don't know how to pronounce this word, Rick? Yep. Map lake depth. We did do a partial mapping of the lake depth of Silver Lake. So that may be something we want to consider. And then dredging the lake, again, that's long-term. I do understand that there are some discussions internally about doing some dredging of Lake Gerard with the, in conjunction with the replacement of the fishing pier. But for me, again, I would say in a perfect world, let's figure out what the plan is to the best approach to maintain this lake for the long term before we start dredging, right? Because if we dredge and we don't fix the issues that are causing the sediment, then I don't want to say what's the point, but we're just going to be in the back in the same spot we're in now, right? So to me, that would be the perfect world. Okay, let me stop there. Questions, comments. My goal in the next, 5 minutes would be to just kind of define next steps so I can line up what we need to for the next meeting.
So I'm wondering whether we're going to try to come up with a new management plan, or whether you're going to try to adopt one of the 2023 work that was done by the Army Corps. What exactly your goal?
So me speaking as one of 9? Yes. Oh. Me speaking as one of 9, I'm open to either. I'm not sitting here with a preference to either approach.
Yeah, excuse me. And I would think that a part of the answer to that is to see what SOLA 3 is planning. They have a lot of good history here, and they've done a lot of hard thinking and a lot of work. And we need to figure out how we take advantage of each other's strengths going forward on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, we have been working on this for quite a few years. We worked with and presented many of the recommendations that are in the Army Corps of Engineers report. One of the challenges, I think as you read that, gives the responsibility to Rehoboth to administer. Doesn't give them money, doesn't give them the expertise, nothing. So it's very hard, I think, for the city of Rehoboth to do this. I've had discussions now with Jane from Sussex County, our new councilwoman, and also some discussions with Dewey Beach. And I'll follow up with the Dewey Beach manager, Bill Zolper, the city manager, and one of their commissioners. Our premise here is that we feel that the 3 communities or municipalities should come together and push this back to DNREC. And just to be clear, that Lakes Management Plan is only Lake Comegys and Silver Lake, does not include Lake Girard. Many of these things we're also working on, like some of these, the depth testing. We'll work with the University of Delaware. I was just thinking we could probably do something fairly quickly in the next few weeks on Lake Comegys and Lake Girard, as long as we can get a kayak or something in there. So we are ongoing working on these as well. I think Craig and I talk about many of these cases.
Okay, so based on your experience, expertise, what would you propose for this committee? What would you propose as the next steps?
That's a good question. I would probably take and look at some of your things for Lake Girard first. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest one you guys will have direct impact on, and that's buffers. I would look at some of the water quality. Like Craig said, we do use chemicals, or Envirotech uses chemicals to treat the algae in Lake Girard. Makes the water look very clean, but it also creates these large algae mats that you'll see in the west and around the fishing pier that are, this big, floating, bubbling. That's actually dying algae and can be toxic. So things like that I would take a look into first. I would see if we can get the depths throughout the lake. Like Craig said, we did this with the University of Delaware. Silver Lake at its deepest point is only 5 feet, which is not deep enough for a lake that size, I forget the acreage, but to really sustain itself in a good way. And that's why we see super high bacteria levels throughout the summer that are unsafe for the EPA, that you should not touch or swim, kayak in. So I think things like that. Take some of the data we have today.
With regard to the buffer, it was my understanding when the buffer was first put in, one of the main reasons was to keep geese from, being around the lake and, having goose poop then flow into the lake.
Exactly.
Is it being effective for that, at least?
So that's interesting. We don't see as many geese on that lake. At one point, we had a huge waterfowl problem there and really contaminated high bacterias levels in Lake Girard and also some around Lake Comanche, or I'm sorry, Silver Lake. But we've seen those populations decrease significantly. Part of that, I think, is some of the work that Envirotech does. That was part of the buffers as well, but these buffers have gotten really big in some spots. And like Craig said, invasive species, I think they could probably be trimmed down a bit. They're also there for runoff and help absorb some of the fertilizer if people are using it around the lake to absorb some of that as well, right? Because your algae is then grows because of the nitrates and the phosphates that we're putting in from a fertilizer concept. Yeah.
Somebody might remember, there was a roundup of the geese. If you recall, there was a roundup of the geese.
Oh, right.
And multitudes of geese they weren't killed. They were rounded up and they were taken somewhere else. So that's why you don't see as many geese. I guess if they're born here, they tend to come back. But you don't see, I can tell you, you don't see the geese like you used to. Sometimes you couldn't even see the top of Lake Girard for the geese. So that's what happened, and it happened a long time ago. Not 30 years ago. Dick, do you remember when it happened?
No, but I do remember that it did happen.
Yeah,
It did.
yeah,
And
yeah. So maybe 15-20 years ago, that they rounded up the geese. It was quite a big thing in town. No, well, we don't talk about that.
Two people used to feed the geese.
Yes, people used to feed the geese, yes.
They would stay.
Okay, up here, any other comments up here? Yes, Frank.
Yes, as far as adopting the older, what is it, the 2012 meeting, that prioritizes the use of biologs as a first line of defense on erosion. And I think on Silver Lake, we have pretty much established, those of us who live on the east side, that they are not really appropriate there as opposed to riprap, because of the prevailing westerly winds creates so much turbulence on the edge of the lake that those logs just fall apart and they actually become floating debris and they get covered with algae, so it just makes a mess. And while the basic concept is great, it does not work in all circumstances. And I'd like to point that out so that before you go prioritizing that over something else, you realize that it is location specific as to whether that is an appropriate formula for controlling it. Thank you.
Other comments up here? Okay, so, sorry, Marco. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest is for the next meeting as it relates to this, I'll get more information on, I'll work to get more information on the stormwater scepters, where they are, where they're located. I'll work to get more information on the buffers. What does a best practice buffer look like compared to what we have today? Okay. If I can think of anything else, I'll add that as well. What I'd now like to do is pivot for, the next however long it takes and just really go down the table and future agenda items. So what I'd like to accomplish today, I want to make a list, okay? As I said earlier, you need to notice, so we really shouldn't be discussing the items today. We can identify the items. People can, say, yeah, that's great. But I'd prefer not to discuss them. We'll make a list. We'll come back to the next meeting. At the next meeting, we'll prioritize those and then move into a discovery phase on the ones that get to the top of the priority list. I'd also like, as we prioritize them, we can also talk about timings, so just kind of have that, like we do with the Board of Commissioners now, have that future agenda item list. These are the items that we want to talk about, and then we can sequence them in timing as appropriate. Okay, so Francis, we'll start with you. Future agenda items, and I'll take notes here.
Yeah, jotted down thoughts that, oh, I'm sorry. I had jotted down some, what I call concerns, re-environmental impacts of, and then I had these bullets. Now, I don't know if these things are really kind of what you're looking for, Craig, you know, in terms of next agenda items, but maybe I'll just throw them out, because some of them are really questions, like, should this be something that we should think about?
Yeah, and I think it's important, as Francis says that, right? So there's never any bad suggestions, never any bad ideas, right? So I think it's really important, whatever you're feeling or whatever you're thinking, throw it out.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
So I'm going to go to my third, and one of the things is, even as we've been discussing today, some of them I keep thinking, well, how do we link into maybe what some of our city staff people work on? And I am thinking of Henry and PFAS, and I'm thinking of, you know, maybe Mike, and then I'm thinking of Corey. So I'm going to bring up the Corey one, which was really, again, it's a question mark. You know, we heard at a city meeting where Corey and compliance kind of people are going to be looking at the grease being released. Building and licensing is going to be doing inspections of our 100 restaurants or whatever for grease. And when I heard that at one of the city meetings, I just was wondering what's behind that. And I almost started thinking like that. Could we have Corey come and tell us what he knows, what is going on? Is there any kind of role that we would play, almost? Because we do know from the old Lakes Management Plan and the work that the Army Corps have been doing, that, you know, where the worst pollution is going out into the ocean is at two spots, and they are, of course, in the in the center of the city. And of course, I always suspected the stuff was coming from the businesses, in particular restaurants. But it's just a question again about, is there something we should be trying to link into with the water waste, or not water, excuse me, sewer water that is going out? And it's a question. I had one that I put as, concern, release of chlorinated pool water. I mean, I happen to live adjacent to the Silver Lake branch, and I know during storms that this neighbor of mine that has a swimming pool, he's got this nozzle thing on top of his pool cover that is meant to squirt water. If you get a heavy rain, then it can squirt the excess water off of the top of the pool cover, the summer pool cover. I'll just say he's got two pool covers, one a winter one, a heavy-duty winter one, but it's the summer one I'm talking about. Well, there was once a really heavy storm where the rainwater actually submerged that light pool cover, and they pumped out over a foot of chlorinated water into their backyard, which is the swale, which is the Silver Lake branch area. So I just wonder, do we need to think about more something in the pool code about, oh, that's not me. Okay, another one that I have, it's kind of, well, I put Country Club Estates used to have, we had, when we were founded, we actually did our own approving of building and things, and that eventually ended up being taken over by the city. But when Country Club Estates was first developed, the Country Club Estates Homeowners Association was kind of in charge of approving and not approving things. We had an environmental committee, and we had, I'll just call it code within Country Club, that disallowed the changing of the contour of the land along the lake. Because I don't know, people know that along Stokely Street, the houses back up to the lake, whereas on Lake Drive, they're on the other side of the lake. Anyway, it's this idea of, and I have brought this up to the city manager and the city commissioners, but it was years ago, that we should have an ordinance to prevent the changing of the contour of land. And really, it is the whole thing of, you know, I'm pointing at Silver Lake just because I have that picture up, but all of our lakes, I mean, the natural thing is that it's the watershed where our houses are now built. I mean, before the houses were ever built, that land area that is part of the watershed to the lake, that water would go to the lakes, regardless of whether there's houses there or not houses there. But if people change the contour of the land, then the water is changed. But anyway, so that's another one. I have conservation of our drinking water, and this is the Henry thing. I just wonder where can we link in, or do we link in, or is there a place for us to partner with issues around conserving our water, the drinking water, the fresh water, the well water, I'll say. So that was one. And then up here, I did have this last thing, which maybe is the least important thing, but I have this continuous concern about these new basements and the impact of basements on our water table, as well as the sump pump world of when these basements are built and people then have to have continuous, almost sump pump discharge. What is the impact of that? So there really weren't anything kind of definitive along, like kind of what you were, like an exact topic, but they're more like throwing out things of concern.
Yeah, that's great.
Great. I'm just going to mention a few things that the former Environment Committee had worked on but hadn't really concluded, and one was an anti-idling ordinance in Rehoboth, which a number of citizens in the community have asked for, and also frequently we discuss our waste management practices, recycling, and those kind of issues. And I guess one of the bigger things that we had also worked on was the idea of some sort of climate change plan for the city, whether it was there may be state funding possibly to do something like that. And also in terms of, obviously stormwater management is huge for the city and the lakes, and maybe we talked about the idea of reviewing impervious surfaces and whether there's better practices in the building, and could be in the building code about driveways and things of that nature, and how to better manage, stormwater.
Well, Francis and Mary have hit on a number of very good topics and given us a lot to think about already. And Mary really touched on where things were left when the former Environment Committee pretty much came to an end. There was one other topic on that list, and one that Sturgis had brought to me several times, and that is, what is the impact of having these so-called pest management companies in town spraying to kill what they say are the mosquitoes? Well, you can't just pick out mosquitoes. And so if mosquitoes are killed, then every insect in that area is killed, and then the impact on our bird population and so on and so forth. And there's a whole cycle then that can be thought about as to what that huge interruption in the ecosystem can do. So I think that's worth looking at. It's worth seeing what other communities have done with that. And then the other topic that comes to my mind, because we increasingly hear about it, and I'm increasingly seeing spotted lantern flies. Now, here is an insect that we need to be very concerned about as they're coming down into Sussex from the PA area and working its way down our state. They will definitely kill a huge number of our trees if left to their own. And one of, I'm no expert on this, but one of the things that I've heard is that they thrive on some of our invasive plant species. And so there's a connection there that the spotted lanternflies they're breeding off of some of the invasive plants, which we should be dealing with also as a community. So, a couple of big topics.
I don't have anything to add this time.
So yes, I had two things that are related. One, I think Francis already mentioned, and that is the recycling efforts for the city. I think there was recently an article and a report on the percent of recycling, the contamination of that. It does feel to me like it's something we should at least get more information about. And then the second thing that I wanted to put on here is the tree canopy and thinking about what we can do to preserve the tree canopy, but also what can we do to plant more trees, street trees. If I think about our tourists and others walking down Rehoboth Avenue and the concrete when we're now in 100-degree heat, and the impact on everybody is significant. So the extent to which we can think about strategies for improving our tree canopy, I would enjoy the opportunity to do that.
Great segue. Here come the tree people. I guess there are three major topics. I'm going to start with our commemorative tree program. I'm going to move on to Arbor Day, which are two things that really need to be addressed soon. We also did a lot of work with citizen education, pruning. We did pruning workshops, lawn alternatives, things like that. But what needs to be looked at, the commemorative tree program, we have been trying to get a map showing donors where their money is going. And it's been a stop and go, and it's basically stopped right now. But it's something that we absolutely need to address. Second, and something we can do something about, we need a plan for planting. And we do not have one at this point. So we need a plan for that. We also need an ongoing accounting of the money going in and money going out. And finally, and this has just stopped because we haven't met for a year, basically, but the commemorative tree program needs some ongoing publicity, and it's been way down. We just have not done anything because there's been no committee. Second is Arbor Day. And over the last couple of years, it's been, I think, about 6 years, we have the basic program has involved Rehoboth Elementary, DENREC, the Art League, as well as the Scouts. And at least for the last year, maybe 2 years, I've just done it myself. And I think that this year, we may want to do some different things, and this is something that needs to be talked about. The plantings for the last couple of years have all been on the Rehoboth Elementary School. They've been planted at the Rehoboth Elementary School. And I'm interested in thinking about a different site, and in particular it would be Grove Park for this year. And I'm thinking that we need to take some time and focus on the health of the trees in that park. So that's, I think, I do have a wish list, which I would like to state right now, which is I would like a water truck. Very simple, just a big plastic something that we could fill water up with a hose, and you could throw it on the back of a pickup truck, and we could save a lot. We could help a lot of the trees that we are planting. So I think that's,
You said water truck.
yes.
Right.
I said truck, but it basically could just be a big plastic thing that holds water. So,
Okay. That's a good segue into my comments, which we discussed ad nauseum at the tree committee throughout the years. But we really need the city to step up and lead by example in preserving our trees in public spaces. And we do need that tree planting plan. You know, we took over the commemorative tree fund from the arborist at her request and raised a lot of money. But throughout the years, we've lost track of it. As Andrea said, we need better accounting. We don't have a real good idea of where these trees have been planted. We know they have been planted. To Mike's credit, he has taken Stokely Park on as a project, and he's removed a lot of the Bradford pear trees in Stokely and replaced them with native trees. He's done that this fall, which is terrific. So he's looking at getting rid of invasives. And I did ask, he did use commemorative tree funds to plant those trees in Stokely, so that was good. But we need to see more of that. You know, a lot of trees have been planted on Munson. The big thing is that they are planted, the city has a contract for a year that waters the trees. The contractor does that for a year. But in the second and third trees, it's up to nature to take its course. And we've tried hard to do something about that through the tree committee, through Rehoboth in Bloom. In fact, Joan Flaherty and I took care of 8 trees in Grove Park for 2 summers and made sure they were watered, and they actually did survive. So that has, you know, there's just no ongoing maintenance plan for our public trees, our street trees. I'd like to see something happen. That water truck would be a terrific idea. What I'm going to say is going to be controversial, but Mike Lilly is also focused on this. The trees in Grove Park are very unhealthy, and they're deteriorating. We've got some great old oak trees there, but I hate to say it, but the farmer's market is killing them. And it's great to have the farmer's market there. They love the shade of those oak trees, but having those heavy vehicles on those tree roots every week is killing them. And
unquestionably.
Andrea's
Unquestionably.
worked on that to a point. But I think for the future, the city is going to have to focus on a new location for the farmer's market. It's very controversial, but I'm putting it out there. I'm done, Heather.
That's interesting. I didn't know about the trees at Grove Park. That's really interesting. I just want to reiterate something the commissioner said earlier that I think is really important, is that we take our direction from the elected commissioners. I think that was maybe an impediment to our committee last time. We had a lot of things that we wanted to do, but really we work at their pleasure. And personally, I'm happy to take assignments from the commissioners if there's something that you guys need us to research, something to work on, to provide backup. I'm certainly willing to do those things. 3 quick things of mine would be, as Mary said earlier, we were working on idling in our previous committee. It's pretty low-hanging fruit, as we used to say. We never really got it over the finish line, but we had a draft of an ordinance. So I think that's something we can probably do pretty easily. The other thing that was sort of a personal thing of mine was I'd like for us to somehow monitor what's going on with wireless communications facilities in the city. I think we can sort of monitor what the big wireless companies are wanting to do here. Just be aware of it, know what's going on, making sure that they don't just come in here and do whatever they want and put whatever they want on our light poles and that sort of thing. So that's something I'd like to see us monitor. And one really sort of, you guys might think this is a random topic, but I'd like to ask the commissioners if they would be willing to entertain looking at some research on the fluoride that we add to our drinking water. There are a number of cities in Florida that have recently passed ordinances to take the fluoride out of the water based on some new information, new tests, new research that's come out that sort of question whether it's in everybody's best interest of their health, what the pros and cons of that are. So I would be interested to see if the commissioners would be willing to look at something like that.
Okay, so what I will do, right, so again, sorry, Marco. As I discussed earlier, I'll put these on a future agenda items list. When we meet at our next meeting, we'll have time to discuss these, prioritize these. In the meantime, what I will do is I will take these to the city manager, see if there's anything that they're currently working on, any suggestions, ideas, whatever, right? So we have that for the next meeting. So if there's, some, objection to something we've got on here, I'll let you know, and then we'll take it off. Heather, I think that's, it's one of the things that I had, I appreciate you recognizing that, look, if we don't have support for something at the Board of Commissioners level, let's not spend a lot of time working on it, okay? We don't have to agree with what myself or my peers do or do not want to work on, but just understanding that, we shouldn't be spending time on things that are not going to get approved by the Board of Commissioners. So that'll be next. Public comment?
Just a little bit.
Yep. So
Hi,
before I let you go, so everyone, while she's speaking, we need to schedule our next meeting. If we can, we should probably try and come up with a day of the month, right? Every whatever day of the week. My goal would be, I'd like to, and we can get into that cycle, but my goal would be we meet again during the first or second week of January, okay? The holidays, once we get past Thanksgiving, things become very busy, so I don't want to try and squeeze something in. I'd like to try and meet the first 2 weeks of January and then meet sometime later in February, right? So we'll do 2 months in a row and then try and work to that every other month cycle, okay? So think about that. Everyone check your calendars. Let me turn it over to public comment. State your name, please.
Sturgis Dodge, 512 Newcastle Street Extended. I'm a former co-chair of the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Trees, former planning commissioner. And a couple things. One was a question when you were doing the code about the lighting. My question came up as what section in the code would that be? Whether in the city code. Okay, because what I was kind of looking at is how the building inspector's office would be informed to enforce that with new or existing buildings, and it needed some specificity or something. Well, regardless, that was just something that came up for me. The other thing was an issue regarding trees, and shortly after I became inactive, I also helped rewrite the current tree code. So I was on another committee that did that. And then it was taken over and revised by another group. I've just become aware of a situation because of something that occurred on my block, that I have questions about how the city and the arborist and the building office understands the code, how they're interpreting it, and how they're enforcing it. And I think that needs some attention. Thank you.
Okay.
Frank has a comment.
Oh, Frank?
Sorry. Frank Cooper, 96 East Lake Drive. I am really pleased to see everybody here in support of trees in this city. I'm here for dark skies, but really my big issue is undergrounding utilities in this city. I know it's a long shot, but the vandalization of our trees by DPL's people is absolutely unacceptable, and it's gotten worse, and it needs to be done. I mean, we can plant all the trees we want. When they come along and demolish half of them on every street, it's just got to be done. Henlopen Acres is undergrounded. Country Club is undergrounded. There is really no reason at all. The entire state of California is going underground. There's zero reason why we can't get that done. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay. Let me start off with, let's start off with when we get to that regular standing meeting, day of week. Is there preferred day of week?
I just start by saying Thursday is a really bad day for me.
Same here. Yeah.
Okay.
Same here. Thursday is.
Friday's good for you? Okay, how about in this room, right? So Friday, Monday, Friday, I mean, just kind of quick show of hands. I'm getting some nods. Okay, let's say Friday. Who?
My house is under construction.
You don't want,
I think Friday's a challenge for anybody that's got a weekend
okay,
things going on.
Travel, right.
okay,
I like Wednesday.
okay.
Wednesday's good.
Like Wednesday.
When,
Well, I don't have a place to live right now, so Wednesday is hard when I stay with a friend, but we'll get the house done, so.
okay, show of hands for Wednesdays.
Midweek.
Midweek, no. Okay, how about Monday? How does Mondays work? And I live here, so I'm kind of flexible. Okay, so Tuesday. No Tuesday. Wednesday. You had said Thursday. How about Thursdays?
I like Thursday.
That are bad? Are you
Thursdays
saying
are bad.
or
Yeah,
good?
what's good?
What's good?
You had said Thursday's not good, right? Okay, all right. Rewind, because I didn't.
Do a doodle poll.
Yeah, okay. All right, so let's kind of back off that first 2 weeks of January. How do first 2 weeks of January look for everyone? And I'm not looking at a calendar or looking at a
Good, as long as it's not the
Mine is
first.
blank.
We're talking about an in-person meeting, right? Not a-
talking about an in-person meeting, first 2 weeks of January, so that would really be the week of the 5th and the week of the 12th. So Marco, bad days
Chair,
for you, the week of the 5th and the
Can I
12th.
recommend either January 9th, that's a Friday, or January 7th, which is a Wednesday?
Okay, how does January 7th and January 9th? Okay, let's start with January 9th. January 9th, raise of hands. Friday, January 9th.
That would be a Friday.
Friday, January 9th. Okay, how about Wednesday, January 7th? Show of hands. I've got 1, 2, where are you, Elise? Yes, no?
I can make it work.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 3, 6 of us. Who can't make?
I can't make those, but
Okay, so I'm sorry, back to the 9th, Friday, January 9th? 1, 2, 3, there's 6 of us. Okay, 7 of us. How about Wednesday, January 7th? Wednesday, January 7th?
How many?
Looks like 5. So it looks like the Friday, the 9th is probably more preferable.
But what about the next week, the 14th?
Well, I went with Marco recommended some dates, because one of the things,
We would either like it to be the week before or the week after the meeting of the commissioners, because that's when Ann and myself are usually
That
busy.
makes sense, yeah, you're busy.
yeah, so if that, just to help, just a little clarification there, they've got a lot of work to do, not only preparing for Board of Commissioners, but other stuff as well. So I am going to look to Marco to guide us on what works best for him. Okay, let's look at the last 2 weeks of, so Marco, Friday, January 9th.
Okay.
Okay, 10 a.m. work, good for everyone? Okay, all right, so let's look at the last 2 weeks of February. When we look at the last 2 weeks of February, Marco, what looks good for you?
I would have to recommend a Wednesday, the 25th of February. Fridays are usually a planning commission on the 27th.
Okay.
So Friday would not be feasible.
How does Wednesday, February 25th look for people? Raise your hand if it's good. I got 1, 2, 3.
I'd have to
Okay, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're in Florida, 6. Okay, so let's do Wednesday, February 25th, 10 a.m. Okay? All right, so if we go to Marco, let's start with weeks of the month that you'd prefer us to be in.
If we could adjust to the week before the commissioners meet their regular meeting, so whichever day is the pleasure of the committee. I know the other advisory committee suggested meeting before so that if there's anything that you have to get on their agenda, you can get it in by Friday, which is the deadline for submissions.
Okay, so since we're going to meet so that really what you're referring to is doing it the first week of the month. Hold on 1 second.
The second week, so second Thursday, second Wednesday, second Friday.
What did public safety settle on?
They second Thursday.
Okay, second Thursday. Okay, so go ahead, Francis.
I just want to clarify, though, that would we be more apt to something going before the commissioners at the workshop meeting versus the regular meeting? So, I mean, you're thinking of the regular meeting, right? But I'm wondering if more often than not, we would be wanting to be at first engaging the commissioners at a workshop. It's a question, not a...
Yeah, we're going to be, we'll have this challenge of, 7 days, the agenda has to get published 7 days in advance, right? So if they do the second Thursday, that puts them in a situation where if they wanted to get on the agenda for that month's regular meeting, they could do it, right? Because the regular meeting is the third Friday of the month. If we did like the first week of the month, we're probably not going to hit the workshop meeting. So sounds like second week of the month.
Yeah, so if you would like to get on the agenda for the regular meeting, I'd recommend the second week. If you would like to get on the agenda for the workshop, I'd recommend the week after. So it'd be the fourth day of the month. And then you could be on their workshop meeting. And you have plenty of time to submit anything.
Yeah. If things proceed the way I'm hoping they proceed with the agenda management, it's very likely that anything we're going to want to bring up is going to go to a workshop meeting first, okay, rather than a regular voting meeting. So I think, second week of the month, fourth week of the month, we're meeting the 25th of February, so I'd say we could shoot for the week of the 23rd and then be in kind of that, that fourth week of the month if we want to do that. So basically the last week of the month.
Are we talking about March?
I'm talking about March, yeah.
Okay.
Last week.
And what day of week works the last week of the month?
Last week of the month can't be Friday because of Planning Commission. So it
Okay,
would have
so
to
if we take Friday out, what's the best day of the week for everyone? Mondays,
Monday.
not Monday.
Monday, just be considerate that if we got to take it in the morning and we do have Board of Adjustment on.
Okay. Tuesdays. Wednesdays.
Tuesday, Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday. Thursday.
That Thursday I could do. Normally it's.
Friday.
Probably, that's
You're
the
talking
worst
not
for
just
me.
that specific
Just get into a
time, but in
cadence. yeah,
general.
In general.
Oh, in general,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so Mondays are out. Tuesdays, right? If we get into a regular cycle, how's Tuesdays for everyone?
Tuesdays, great.
Tuesdays is good.
Okay. Elise, can you do Tuesdays? No. Okay. Heather,
It's tough, but I can be here.
what's the best day of week for you?
Monday or Friday.
Okay.
'Cause I
All right.
have no place to
Can we
live.
do Monday or no?
At the mercy
You got
of
Board of
same with my
Adjustment on
friends.
Monday?
I would, yeah, they start early at 1:30, so I'd recommend one of the days in between Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Okay. So what did we say? It sounded like Tuesday was the best day? Tuesday?
Yeah.
Tuesday? Raise of hands for Tuesday.
Tuesdays.
Wednesday? What day can you make?
I like Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays the best.
Okay. Can you do Thursday at all or no?
Yeah, I can't. During, at least in the spring and through the fall, I cannot.
Okay, Marco, it looks like Monday. I want to go back to Monday. Everybody can do Monday? Can everyone do Monday? Yep. Looks like everyone, they can, okay. So Marco, Monday, we're just gonna have to work it out. Okay, I understand Board of Adjustment, we'll just have to figure it out.
And I also saw that we have Parks and Shade Tree Commission, that's their scheduled day, so I would really advise against Monday. I'd please.
all the time.
Yeah, but it's their scheduled day, and I think they would be privy to.
Okay, if we go back to it, so it sounds like Monday is the best day for everyone. I mean, regardless of the week, it sounds like Monday is the best day for everyone. Gonna get, yeah. Can you generally make Mondays? Yeah, okay, so Monday, okay.
Could we do Monday?
First week of the month?
Monday afternoon, possibly?
First week of the month, Monday?
Or you could meet on the 16th.
Which is what, the third week of the month?
The third week.
Okay.
Third week of the month.
Let's go with third week of the month, sound good? Okay. Third Monday
Okay,
of the month,
works.
okay? All right.
Monday.
Since it's Mondays, 10 a.m. work for everyone? Okay? And we're going to get back to, I realize where we are now, but again, I want the goal to be, we're 75 minutes. We're going to put times in as we work through creating our agendas collectively here. We'll identify the agenda item. We will put a time limit on the agenda item. Matt, we're looking to be done in 75 minutes, out of here in an hour and a half. Okay? Make sense? Everyone okay with that? Okay, everyone's coming back to the next meeting. Is anyone going to go home and send me a resignation letter, or are we okay?
So we're sticking with the specific dates for February and.
Specific dates, January, February.
Those are
And then
already.
After that, we'll.
Third Monday.
To third Monday. Okay.
Okay, do I need to do anything else? Just close the meeting?
I have it, yes.
Yeah, just say it's adjourned.
It's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.